Hi, in this video we are going to learn how to solder some electronic components onto a PCB, which is this. This is called a zero PCB. We will learn how to solder some components onto this perforated PCB, which is also called a zero PCB. And now before doing that, let me introduce these components to you. So this is called soldering iron. The part that we have here, it is called solder tip, and the entire thing is soldering iron. And this is called soldering iron stand, which we use to hold the soldering iron. And this is called soldering lead or soldering wire, which is used to make the joints. This is called soldering flux or solder paste that we apply before making the joints. And this is a solder tip cleaner, and using which we can clean the tip of the soldering iron so that it works fine for the next use. And coming to this is called Desolder Pump. This is used to take the solder out without any extra efforts. And this is called Desolder Wick. This is also used to desolder a component's solder. For example, we want to join these two wires. What we generally do is we just twist these two wires and put some insulation tape on top of that so that it stays strong. That's what we think, but in general, if we apply some force and pull it out, it comes out. So for this not to happen, for these joints to be fixed permanently, we use soldering. Let me show you how we can solder this joint. First, I'll make a twist onto this, and now the joint has been made for some time. Now what we'll do is, this is the solder iron, right? So before soldering any component, we need to take some flux and put it onto the joint that we are going to make. So I'm taking some flux here and applying some of that onto this joint. Now I'll just put this onto the iron, and now I'll join both the wires. After soldering that, this is how it looks like, and even if you apply force, it won't come out easily. And to insulate it, we have two options. First one is using the general insulation tapes that we use in our homes, or you can use something called the heat shrink tubes. Those will be shrink under the heat. And after choosing the best one, I'll just cut it. And I will push it into this. And now we'll just and this is how we make a perfect joint. Now let me show you how we can solder some electronic components like this onto this PCB. First, we'll check which one has to be put. I'll just put it in place. To make the joint perfect, you have to apply some flux at that joint. I'm taking the flux along with the soldering wire, and using soldering rod, I'm applying some heat so that the soldering wire melts, and then it forms a rigid joint that makes this connection between the PCB and the component permanent. And even if you try to take it out, it won't come out since it has been fixed to the PCB strongly. And now we will also do the same for the rest of the components which are needed for the project. For these kind of components, for them to be in place, you have to bend the leads from the other side so that it stays in place, and then you can solder it as you want. The same way that we soldered the previous parts, I am doing the same for rest of the parts. You can also use a multifunctional PCB soldering iron stand and component holder like this to hold the PCB so that your PCB does not deviate from the place you want it to be. Since I do not have one with me, it's being a difficult task for me to solder this. But if you have it, it will be easy for you to do it. Also, do not forget to clean the soldering tip frequently, because once the soldering tip is exposed to environment, there will be an oxidized layer formed on top of it which resists the soldering wire from melting. That will be difficult for us to do the soldering process. Using these components and soldering them onto the PCB, I made a push button controlled LED which operates based on the push button. As long as you push and hold the button in place, the LED glows. And this is what it is about. I hope you understood how the soldering process actually works, and if you have any doubts, please comment down below, I'll answer them. And I hope you learned something new from this. Thank you.